The base radio was still warm when the call came in. No introduction, no context, just the trembling voice of the forest ranger saying that there was a male gorilla standing in the middle of the South Trail, and that he was not moving away, that he was gesturing, pointing at something, that he seemed to be asking for help. Dr. Ines Cavalcanti turned off the radio and stood still for 3 seconds. In 17 years working with great primates in the heart of the Bwindi forest, she had seen many things. But a gorilla asking for help was different. It was the kind of thing that was either a misunderstanding or something she would never forget. She grabbed her backpack, called the team with 2 claps, and left before anyone could ask a question. The South Trail took 40 minutes on foot. They did it in 28. When they arrived, the silence was the first thing that caught their attention. No birds, no insects, as if the entire forest had held its breath. And then they saw Dako. He was enormous, more than 200 kilos, silverback shining under the rays of light cutting through the canopy. But there was nothing threatening about that gorilla at that moment. He was crouched down, looking at Ines with an expression impossible to name. It was not anger. It was not fear. It was something much closer to despair. Behind him, partially covered by the vegetation, was Remi. The female gorilla was lying on her side, her belly distended from the advanced pregnancy, breathing short and irregular. She tried to lift her head when she heard the team's footsteps. She could not. Dako turned toward her, then looked back at Ines. And then he did something no one expected. He extended his arm toward the humans, with the palm of his hand open upward, and remained completely still, as if he were handing over something precious, as if he were asking them to take care of her. The assistant Tomas murmured, "He is calling us." No one answered, because they had all seen the same thing. Ines took a step forward. Dako did not back away. If you are enjoying this story, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and tell us in the comments what you thought, and from which city or country you are watching right now. The transport arrived in 40 minutes. A reinforced stretcher, portable oxygen, a precision sedative calculated for Remi's estimated weight, 140 kilos with a pregnancy. Every second between the call and the arrival of the equipment was spent in silent observation. Dako did not leave his place. He stayed 3 meters away the entire time, sitting, watching. When Priya approached with the sedation syringe, he stood up. He did not advance, did not vocalize. He simply stood there, like a warning. Ines raised her hand for the team to stop and walked toward him before any movement. She knew that explaining would not help, but doing, showing, acting slowly enough for him to understand the intention, that did have value. Ines crouched down, picked up a thin branch from the ground, and gently placed it over Remi's arm. Then she removed it. No pressure, no pain. She looked at Dako and repeated the gesture, slowly. He kept watching for almost a minute. Then he sat down again. Priya administered the sedative with a precision that came from years in the field. Remi fell asleep in less than 3 minutes. Her breathing became slower, more regular, at least for now. What no one expected was what Dako did next. When Remi closed her eyes, the male gorilla approached her for the first time since the team had arrived. He knelt down, if a gorilla can kneel, and pressed his forehead against hers. He stayed like that for a few seconds, quiet, carrying a weight in his body that was not muscular. Renato looked away. Priya cannot. Ines took the picture mentally, without a camera, because there were moments that did not need to be recorded to last forever. After that, Dako stepped back, and he remained still while the team moved Remi onto the stretcher with absolute care. 4 pairs of hands working as one thing only, without words, without hurry, without room for mistakes. The transport to the veterinary center would take 50 minutes, and there was something inside that truck, besides Remi, that Ines had not yet told anyone about. The truck moved along the dirt road with deliberate slowness. Every hole in the uneven asphalt was a threat. Renato drove with both hands firmly on the wheel, eyes fixed on the rearview mirror, monitoring every jolt. No one spoke. The only sound was the oxygen flowing through the tube connected to Remi's mask and the soft creaking of the stretcher against the metal of the vehicle. Ines was sitting beside her, fingers on the pulse, eyes on the portable monitor. It was there, in that tense silence, that she finally told them. 3 days before the collapse, the forest ranger Deo Ferreira had recorded something unusual in the reserve's field notebook. Remi had been seen drinking from a stream on the eastern edge of the forest, an area the group normally avoided. What caught Adeo's attention was not the location. It was what he saw afterward. Remi leaving the water with difficulty, stopping every few meters, supporting herself on her knuckles with an effort that was not normal for her. Adeo had written it down, but he had not reported it immediately because, the next morning, Remi appeared with the group as always, feeding without apparent difficulty. He thought it had been something temporary. It was not. Ines folded the paper with Adeo's notes and put it in her pocket. What those observations suggested was still uncertain. It could be water intoxication. It could be the beginning of the condition that culminated in the collapse. It could be something completely different. But there was a third possibility that she was not dismissing, and that made the birth even more delicate than it already was. Twins. Ines had palpated Remi's abdomen while still in the forest. The distribution of the weight, the tension in 2 distinct points, the way the belly reacted to light pressure. Everything pointed to more than one infant. But without a confirmed ultrasound, it was a suspicion, not a diagnosis. And suspicions did not enter the surgical protocol. Certainties did. When the truck stopped at the entrance of the veterinary center, the support team was already at the door with the surgical room lights on. Ines got out before the engine had completely shut off, went inside with Remi, and requested the ultrasound with a calmness that represented nothing of what she was feeling inside. The image appeared on the screen. She took a deep breath. 2 infants, different positions, one of them poorly positioned for natural birth. Ines turned to Priya and said only, "Cesarean." Now, there was no time for a meeting, for deliberation, for extended protocol. There were 2 small hearts beating at a frequency that the monitor translated into red numbers, and there was a mother whose body was reaching the limit of what it could sustain. The center surgical room was small but complete. For people around the table, strong light coming from above, instruments organized by Tomas with almost military precision. Ines washed her hands, put on the gloves, and entered the state that she herself silently called surgical mode, where everything that was not the patient in front of her simply ceased to exist. The incision was made with firmness and delicacy at the same time. Remi was stable under anesthesia, vital signs monitored by Priya in real time. Each number communicated in a low voice without interrupting the rhythm of the room. The first infant came out in 4 minutes. Male, small, far too quiet. Renato received him with hands wrapped in warm cloth and immediately began stimulation. Gentle friction on the back, clearing the airways, constant warmth. For 11 seconds, nothing happened. 11 seconds that the entire team counted without realizing it, all looking at that tiny body in Renato's hands. On the 12th second, the infant coughed, then cried. The sound was small, sharp, completely disproportionate to the relief it caused. The second infant came 2 minutes later. Female, even smaller, but with an immediate vitality that surprised everyone. She arrived already moving, already reacting to touch, already claiming space in the world with an insistence that seemed improbable for something so newly born. Priya laughed unintentionally. She covered her mouth with her fist, but she laughed. Ines closed the incision with the same attention with which she had opened it. Remi was responding well, blood pressure stabilizing, breathing normalizing. The worst had passed, but there was one thing that still needed to happen for the story to be complete. The infants needed to smell their mother, and the mother needed to recognize them. Without that moment, everything else could collapse in a way that no surgery could fix. Remi's recovery lasted 4 hours. Ines stayed in the room the entire time, leaving only once to drink water and return. The infants remained in neonatal warmers positioned less than 1 meter from the mother, close enough for the scent to circulate between them, far enough not to interfere with her recovery. It was Tomas who noticed first. Remi began moving her nostrils before opening her eyes. A slow movement, almost imperceptible, as if something inside her were waking up in a different order than the body. Then the hands, fingers slowly opening and closing against the stretcher. When she finally opened her eyes, she did not look at the team. She looked to the side, in the exact direction of the warmers. Ines carefully brought the cradle closer. She placed the male infant first, the one who had taken 11 seconds to breathe, the one who had required more effort, the one who somehow already carried a story of his own before even having a name. She positioned him against Remi's chest with a delicacy that could not fit into words. Remi smelled him for a long time. Then she closed her arm around the small body. Priya left the room before anyone could see her face. The female came next, and the recognition was immediate. Remi pulled her close with a confidence that seemed impossible for a mother who was still coming out of anesthesia, as if instinct did not need time to wake up, as if it had never been asleep. 2 days later, the family was ready to return. The release happened early in the morning, when the light was still low and the forest was in that specific silence between night and day. The team accompanied them to the edge of the reserve and stopped. Remi entered the vegetation with the 2 infants clinging to her body, slowly, recovering the rhythm of her own legs. Dako was there. No one knows how he knew the time. No one tried to explain it. He simply was there, standing among the trees, waiting. When Remi reached him, he smelled her, smelled the infants, and then the 3 disappeared together into the forest. The team remained standing at the edge of the forest for a length of time none of them could measure. Sometimes nature gives back something that seemed lost, and all that remains is having been part of it. If this story touched you in some way, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments what you thought, and from which city or country you are watching right now.